So the third question was that need of philosopher king in contemporary times. The need of philosopher king in contemporary times. So basically they're asking your opinion, do we need the idea of philosopher king in today's time? So basically in introduction, you can write something like what Plato's quote is there: unless philosopher becomes kings or kings learn the art of philosophy, the world will never rest from its evils. Then one part of your answer you have to stress on what are the issues in contemporary times. You can say corruption, nepotism, and you can also say in contemporary times we find there is increasing terms of what you can say growing in equality. And you can also say in contemporary times we also have issues where you can say rulers certain times lack rationality. But then you can say, however, in contemporary times we cannot solve all the problems to establishing a philosopher king. Why? Because history has always shown that absolute power, when it is given in hands of one person, it has always led to disaster. For example, you can take the case of Hitler or etc. And second, you can say in contemporary times, here we can say democracy is considered a more ideal form of government. So it's not dependent upon any one individual being exceptional, but it requires a holistic effort or collective effort. So hence you can say that philosopher king was not suitable for times of Plato, neither he is suitable for the contemporary times also. So that is what you can write in your answer. So here you focus more on writing the contemporary times. So first you focus on why in contemporary times there is a notion that we need a person like a philosopher king. You have to speak out what are the ill effects or what are the problems today we face. But then you bring an argument saying that even in today's time we cannot give absolute power to one person just based on he has knowledge in that regard. And today we can say that, as Winston Churchill told, democracy might be the worst form of government, it is the best until we have an alternative. So there is no answer in any book for it. It is all your opinion or your arguments what you build in your answer. You can write any argument in that regard, but you need to justify your stand by saying that why you are supporting it or why you are disagreeing with that viewpoint. Then you have one more question is Machiavelli and morality. Machiavelli and morality. They are asking you to comment on it. So one, you can write here introduction about Machiavelli is written in the book called as Prince and is considered as one of the realist scholars. Then you can say what Machiavelli says, that Machiavelli is writing, they separate ethics and politics. And in terms of Machiavelli, he says that a ruler should not be limited by the boundaries of morality. So he says whatever the king's action in the interest of the state, it cannot be judged on the principle of morality or immorality, it is amoral in that regard. And he also introduces a concept called as dual morality, a different set of moral standards for the prince and the common people at large. But then you can bring the critic saying that some have criticized Machiavelli as a teacher of evil. He is openly advocating immorality. And secondly, you can say that people like Gandhi have always stressed that it is means are as pure as the ends in that regard. Then you can write in your conclusion, nevertheless, when one looks at contemporary international politics in that regard, we can say Machiavelli voice echoes even today, and that is why you can say he is the most criticized thinker, yet he is the most practiced thinker in India. So it's simple question, easy question, you can directly write. But again, see, it is all about how do you arrange your points and how do you bring the flow of your answer. Okay, because you can write many ways, but it depends upon how well you present your answer, how well there is a flow in your answer. And make sure you have written the keywords, the dual morality or etc. So any doubt in this question or anything which you want to add for this particular question? Hmm. Hmm. No, see, Ashoka is different times. Contemporary means today's time. So why you will write about Ashoka? Because they are asking contemporary, means in today, in which era, 21st century. So is there a role of philosopher king? So you have to bring arguments there. So one argument you can say why that notion of philosopher king might be there, because of problems what rulers face today. But then you are going to write this today's problem cannot be solved only through a philosopher king. So why will you write about Ashoka? See, question is asking contemporary. Why will you write Ashoka? Is Ashoka belonging to today's time? You can do that. See, anything present you can compare. But why will you write about Ashoka whose ages back is not even in today's time? So question is clearly asking, they are asking your opinion, do you think we need a philosopher king in present times? So you have to write there, okay, if you have arguments, why do we need? 2-3 points you need to tell, okay, what are the problems in today's time? Even like Athens, you can say similar problems are here. But then you are going to counter it by saying that, okay, but we can't solve today's problem only through philosopher king. Today's problem requires people to be more aware in that regard. In today's problem, it is more about rights. It's more about limiting the powers of the rulers, not completely giving the power of the ruler just on the basis of the person possesses knowledge. And you can also read in today's time, we can see even those who are most knowledgeable need not be ethical. Okay, so there is no link between Ashoka. Ashoka belongs to a different age. See, now what happens there is that you might feel that by writing Ashoka, I am writing a very good point, but that is not at all relevant to the demand of the question, because had they asked that in India's history has there been a philosopher king, somewhere you can write. What is the connection between Ashoka and today's time? Hmm. You can. You can. Anything, you can link any point, but just write more what his sense of morality that you can write. Then you have this question called as covenant without swords. Covenant without swords are nothing but words. Hobbes. So again you write here about Hobbes gave this statement in his book Leviathan, and then you go on to explain for Hobbes any kind of agreements which are not backed by the sovereignty or the will, authority of the state, it is meaningless. Hence he says there is no scope for natural law or natural rights in state of nature. Why? Because these rights can't exist without existence of state. So Hobbes is a proponent of positive law. For him, he believes that whatever is the law made by the state, that is more applicable. Why? Because it is backed by the swords or the authority of the state. So then you can go on to say that, however, people like Locke have argued that for every agreement you don't need backing of the state. There can be existence of natural laws even without the existence of state. But nevertheless, what Hobbes said, we can witness it in contemporary international laws. We can say international laws are also covenant without swords are nothing but words. So here largely you need to link it in simple sense. They are asking you the question on Hobbes' views on laws. You need to link Hobbes' critique of natural law. You have to write about Hobbes was a proponent of positive law. Okay, and whatever is law made by the state, that has to be followed by the individuals. But you can make an argument saying that every law made by the state cannot be accepted as correct. Why? Because even Gandhi said, when law becomes injustice, it is become your duty to oppose it in that regard. And you can say all laws cannot be sourced only from the state. In today's world, we can also say laws have origin from nature, from religion, or etc. So that is something you can write in your critical evaluation part. But conclusion, you end on notion that Hobbesian ideas can be seen in international politics. Hence we say international law, which is not backed by the swords of the state, it is useless. Then the 20 marker question which was there, they had asked on Plato's communism communism is half communism. It's a statement made by Barker. Plato's communism is half communism. So in this answer, since it's a 20 marker question, so first you write about Plato, you write about his book Republic, then you write about or explain the idea of communism of wives and property. So you need to explain that, why he gave communism of wives, why he gave communism of property, what do you mean by that. But then you can say that, but when we compare Plato's communism with modern Marxian communism, there are certain differences. So there you write the differences. In Plato's communism, it is applicable only for the two classes, not for the entire society. Whereas modern communism, it is applicable for the entire society. In Plato's communism, you can say he only applies the communism of both family and property. In Marxian communism, it only applies to property in that regard. And in Plato's communism, communism is not the end goal. Communism is the means to achieve the ideal state. But in Marxian communism, communism is the end goal, that is to create a classless and a stateless society. Hence, when compared to Marx, Plato's communism is considered to be half communism. But then you can write in your answer, however, we are comparing the uncomparables because they are completely written in different contexts and different time periods. Your answer is done. So that's why I told you it's a very simple question. Largely you need to just give the connection between Marxian communism and the modern day communism. That is, in that light this statement has been made. Plato's communism is half communism. Got an understanding? So that's why I told you it's a very easy question where you can easily score marks. But again I told you it depends upon how you interpret the question. Have you interpreted the question correctly? Then you will be able to get the answer. Then you have the other question is that critically analyze the contribution of Greek political thought to the development of Western political thought. Again you can say an easy straightforward question. So you can start your answer by saying that, as Professor Foster says, that the entire Western political thought is nothing but footnotes of Plato and Aristotle. Then you can say the Greek political thought can be considered as the cradle of the Western political ideas. So then you go on to write. You can say that Plato's views on idea of what you can say democracy in that regard has further influenced the development or modification of democracy in Western political thought. Or you can say Aristotle's view on rule of law, etc., shaped the development of constitutionalism under the Western political thought. Then you can also say the Greek writings on idea of justice, it has been further enlarged. You can say people like John Rawls in that regard try to bring the universal application of idea of justice. Then you can say based on the Greek political ideas, based on what they have spoken about the theory of state. So they have given organic theory of state. So you can say social contract tradition emerged as a critic of the organic theory of state, which developed the mechanistic view of state in that regard. Then also you can say about Hannah Arendt in that regard. She has been largely influenced by Aristotle's civic republicanism, that is people's participation in public affairs. Or even you can say the idea of communism, what is there written by Plato, later it has developed into a lot of Marx, who applies it to modern day societies in that regard. Or you can also say dialectics, or the importance of discussions, deliberations, has been also featured in writings of J.S. Mill. So hence you can say that, as Professor Moyer says, that the origin of the Western political thought, should be credited to the calm and rationality of the Greek mind. Calmness and the rationality of the Greek mind. Got the point? So you need to give logical connection, link Western political scholars with Greek political, how their ideas, how ideas of Plato and Aristotle have influenced. That's the simple question what they've asked. Third question they've asked about Machiavelli Machiavelli as a forerunner of behavioralism. Machiavelli as a forerunner of behavioralism. So forerunner basically means how Machiavellian ideas have shaped the growth of behavioral school of thought in political science. So first in your answer, write about what is behavioralism. You can say behavioralism was a movement in political science where they stressed more on making the subject scientific by removing the role of values and making the subject purely based on empirical study. Then you can go on to say the roots of behavioralism starts with Machiavelli. So Machiavelli is considered as the Galileo of politics. And then you go on to say how Machiavelli in his writings or in his method of study, he completely separated the role of ethics from politics. Machiavelli completely based his study on observation. He based in human nature based on what he observed. And Machiavelli also largely what you can say, he largely spoke about real politic rather than what ought to be. So his main question is what it is, etc. And Machiavelli largely performed the role of description rather than prescription alone. So in a way you can say Machiavelli broke the tradition of philosophy in field of politics and tried to make politics completely a scientific study. Hence we can consider him as the forerunner of behavioralism. Later this tradition was carried forward and developed by likes of David Easton, Graham Wallace, Arthur Bentley, something like that. Okay, so then if you want to write more creatively, you can also write your opinion, saying that when who criticizes Machiavelli, saying that is narrow. Sabine, when Sabine criticizes Machiavelli is narrowly dated and located, you can say it is incorrect, as we can say Machiavellian ideas have also shaped the future emergence of political science in the form of behavioral revolution. Anything, okay, that's why I told it's like how you express your points, how you arrange your points, and that's why I told uh, writing answers is easy, but it requires you to understand the question correctly. You will have to know which point and where to address. So many people here, they will start the question with Machiavelli, but instead you can start the question with by explaining first a bit what is behavioralism, then giving the logical connection that how Machiavellian methods can be linked to development of behavioral school of thought, because even in behavioralism they stress that values have no role to play. They make it based on descriptive study, and they also emphasize on what evidence based study, observation, etc. Same thing has been observed in Machiavelli. That is why he is considered as what, the forerunner of behavioralism in the field of political science. Got it? Hmm. Hmm. Simple. 10 marks you write less. There also you can write. See, one paragraph you can write. Here I will explain behaviorism a bit. That's it. But even in a 10 marker question, my answer won't change. It will be same thing. I'll start with behavioralism. Then I'm going to give a logical connection that how it is connected to Machiavelli. So if you see, this is a previous year question that has been asked in the exam. Okay. So if you see the increasing trend in the exam, they are interlinking topics. You are understanding? No longer they are asking just topics based on one particular thing. So more number of intermixing they are doing. Means bring logical connection between two thinkers' ideas, or link democracy and Greek political thought, link power and ideology topic. So there is lot of interlinkages they are building in the recent trend. If you look at how the questions are coming in the examination, so that is why I told you have to be able to interlink your ideas. You make cross connection, make logical connection. You are understanding? They are asking like how Aristotle ideas have contributed to development of constitutional democracy. So you have to be able to analyze and tell, because not all his ideas have contributed to constitutional democracy. There are certain criticism also, that he defends slavery, he builds citizenship only based on active participation in that regard. He excludes women, children, old people from thing. He defends inequality. So these cannot be taken as a, but his rule of law, his active participation in politics, okay, these and all can be taken as what, or his idea of justice in that regard, that is a retributive. These are all part of modern day constitutional democracies. So these questions will all require thinking. Thinking means on the spot you have to be able to think and write, and that's why I told previous year question paper analysis will be very important to understand the trend, how the questions are coming, and that will enable us to, change our method of study accordingly. Okay, so the next test will be again after I think not this Sunday, the next Sunday. So you will get 2 weeks time in between to study for it, and the papers that has been already submitted, we will be getting it within 5 days of evaluation, and once you get your paper you can come for one-to-one feedback. For online students, you can ping me, I will come through Zoom or something to give a feedback to it. Okay, so it will take 5 to 6 days to get your evaluated copy, but it can happen earlier also. It depends upon the number of people who have written. But so we won't be giving any synopsis, it will be more about discussion. So that's why if more people come offline, it will be better to discuss the ideas or discuss the answer. And once in a while we'll also do Zoom sessions, where because online students can also then interact and they can speak. So it will be more of brainstorming sessions, that what can be written, how we can write, or etc. So those who have come also, you also have to discuss with each other, like your preparation. Try to make combined study, in that sense, jointly solve certain questions, jointly sit and make use of how we can write. That will help a lot. Got it? So we'll meet again same every Tuesday. Sunday will usually Saturday was a test, but next time it will be Sunday. After Sunday, Tuesday will be your discussion day. Okay. In between, I'll tell when we'll have a Zoom session to just discuss the answers. Any other doubt? Any other doubt? No, why will you write the critique? Because they are asking Plato's communism is half communism. So they are not asking you to critically examine Plato's communism, right? They are saying why it is considered as half communism. So it's basically a comparative analysis between Plato and Marx's idea of communism. So I don't think so in that question you need to write the criticism of Plato's communism, because the question is not demanding that. You're getting point. So that's why I told you need to go according to what exactly is the question. The question was not asking critical analysis of Plato's communism. It was only asking Plato's communism is considered as half communism. Why? So you need to explain that. Point. So if they had the asked the question, comment on Plato's communism, then you could have brought the critique of Plato's communism. But question is not there. Question is that a statement made by Barker. So you need to explain why that statement has been made, and do you agree with that particular. That's why I wrote in the answer, we are comparing the uncomparables. Okay, because both gave different ideas in different context. Understood? So again, read for the next test, and once you get your evaluated copy, then you can come for one-to-one.